Do large screen TVs actually have worse picture quality? An aspiring calibrator needs our help. Why aren't some Samsung TVs getting HDR10 Plus from Netflix? And when is your judder problem not actually judder, and what can you do about it? Welcome back, everyone. I'm Caleb Dennison, and I don't know about you, but this is my favorite thing to do on a Saturday morning since Bugs Bunny ain't on CBS anymore. By the way, not sponsored, but have you had these like Mom's Best cereals? Yo, they're supposed to be like a little less unhealthy than what big cereal's making, and they're actually less expensive. I don't usually eat cereal for breakfast, but this stuff makes a killer snack, no joke. Like, have a dry bowl of one of these cereals next to your popcorn on your next movie night and tell me you didn't hardcore upgrade movie night. I'm just spitting hot fire truth over here. Also, folks, if you happen to be watching this video the day it comes out, I'll be doing a 90-minute live stream tomorrow, Sunday the 23rd. Details on that toward the end of the video, but it's gonna be a blast and I can't wait to see you there. Okay, let's get to some questions and answers, shall we? David Saul writes, I'm looking to get a larger TV, probably in the 85-inch to 100-inch size. Probably a Hisense due to your glowing reviews. I mostly watch sports, news, and Netflix, Amazon, HBO. I sit back about 15 feet. Will the picture quality still be great at this size range as compared to a smaller TV? What will I sacrifice? My concern is being disappointed with the picture quality. Thank you. Okay, folks, David's email here brings up some concerns that I see brought up often. Will the picture quality still be great at the larger size compared to a smaller version of the same model of TV? And what sacrifices, if any, come with going with a larger TV? Honestly, this kind of needs to be its own video. So I'm gonna talk about this a bunch in the live stream that I have coming up, and I'll make a dedicated video out of it as well. But here's the deal with ultra large screens, shorthand version. There are two factors to consider. One is the impact that the large screen size will have on watching lower quality content, and the other is whether there might be some hardware differences among the same models at varying sizes. We'll talk about the separate, less expensive large screen versus more expensive smaller screen decision at the end of this segment. So to start, I just want to remind everyone who watches a lot of live TV on cable, satellite, or streaming, or watches a lot of free streaming content on apps like Pluto, Tubi, Freevee, or even YouTube, that a lot of that content is low resolution and low bit rate, and the flaws in that content will be increasingly obvious the larger your screen gets. Now, some extremely popular classic shows like Star Trek: The Next Generation or Seinfeld may have been professionally upscaled to look better on HD TVs and will therefore look passable on larger 4K TVs. But a lot of modern day content, particularly live content, live broadcast content, is delivered at 720p or 1080i, the very lowest of the HD standard. And no matter how good a TV's upscaling is, it's not gonna look awesome all of the time. They definitely won't look nearly as good as the many 4K shows available on the premium tiers of streaming services like Netflix and Disney Plus, HBO Max, and even Paramount Plus. Now, there are times when there could be small hardware differences between, say, the 65-inch version of a TV and the 85, 98, or 100-inch version of that TV, but usually not enough to make significant differences. Because those super large panel sizes only come from very few panel suppliers, they may be slightly different than the panel you get in a smaller screen size. For instance, a 65-inch TV might have a VA panel, while the 100-inch version of that TV uses ADS Pro panels. Or the backlight density of a 100-inch TV may not be quite as tight as it is on a 65-inch. But the perceived brightness will actually be much, much higher because there's so much more surface area putting out light. So you can see there may be some small trade-offs, some positive, some negative, but they're pretty minor in the grand scheme of things. Manufacturers know that consumers won't stand for taking a less impressive experience from a large format screen when they're paying a huge premium and they're expecting a premium experience from all that extra money spent. Now, on the other hand, if you buy the 100-inch version of a model that sits one tier below a 65-inch version of a TV. Let's say you're gonna compare the Hisense 100-inch U7 to the 65-inch U8. Well, sure, there's gonna be some noticeable differences there, just as there are notable differences between two 65-inch variants from each of those series. But that's not the apples to apples comparison I think folks have been wondering about. Really, it comes down to managing your expectations based on the content you're watching. Poor quality content will seem even poorer on a larger TV, but higher quality content will seem even more premium on a larger screen TV. You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have, well, I'll let you children of the 80s finish that in the comments for me. This next one just, I don't know why, but it kind of tugs on my heartstrings a bit. It's a longer email, but I really wanted to share this one with y'all, so here it goes. My name is Luca, 31 years old, and I write from Italy. You and Vincent Tio have been a huge inspiration for me. I just love your positive, open view on technology and your respect for both the product designer and the final user choices. Since I spent my childhood before a 29-inch Sony Trinitron CRT, I've always been passionate about TVs. Today, I've been working in electronics retail for 7 years. I even worked for Sony. And lately, in my spare time, I've been focused on learning more and more about calibration. I know a professional calibrator might seem almost an obsolete figure in today's market. I don't aim for money or fame, and I'll still need to keep my main job, but I'm willing to do the work I have in order to follow my passion. My aim is to be of service to the artist. I wish to help my fellow movie and video game lovers to have a visual experience as close as possible to what the creator intended for them. So far, I've been calibrating CRT TVs with HCFR. That's a free piece of software. And I've dipped my toes into monitor calibration with CalebRated. But I'm still aiming for the major league of CalMan and TV calibration. Is the ISF training the only path to learn the process properly? What classes should I be focusing on? I'm also trying to contact my local calibration experts here in Italy. Fingers crossed on that. Thank you for reading this through, and even more if you feel like responding for a tip. And by the way, I think he's saying responding with a tip, not for a tip. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is, I don't even care if I sound like a life coach here, but I hope you hear me say this with love when I say stop putting limitations on yourselves. Luca, there is no reason why you couldn't become one of the top calibrators in Italy. Calibrating not just for viewers like you who appreciate the art of filmmaking and want to see that art as it was intended to be seen, but also for the artists who are making it. You could be a top calibrator for, I'm gonna butcher this name, Cinecittà Studios in Rome. That's apparently like Italy's Hollywood, as I understand it. Or any other filmmaker outfit that needs calibrated displays to do their job properly. In fact, that could be a place that you apprentice, or perhaps you could travel there in spurts to study with a top calibrator there, who can not only show you how to calibrate a display, but, well, there's something critical you need to know first. The first thing you're gonna need to succeed is passion. Now, it seems like you got that, but I want everyone else watching to know that you will need to have serious passion for this craft because, second thing, you'll need to be good at teaching yourself. That means you need to be resourceful and you'll need to take the time to learn a lot of things on your own. Study about how the CIE chart was created. Learn about how SDR TV standards were developed. Study the basics of color science and additive color mixing. Then start learning about video signals and what's in them. Learn about code values. EDID. Study test patterns. Understand the fundamentals of contrast. Learn the difference between the backlight slider and the brightness slider on a TV. Then start dipping your toes into HDR. Learn about how content is captured. Then learn about how it is displayed. There's a lot of information buried deep in Avius forum threads, in Livestream recordings by Classy Tech Calibrations and Meridio. You'll have to spend a lot of time teaching yourself just to get yourself to a certain baseline. And then you could find a calibrator to learn from, or you can attend an ISF class to get started. Networking is a big bonus. If you can get yourself to the point where you have a command of the vocabulary and you can speak the language of a video nerd, then you can have a conversation with a calibrator and convince them that you're worth passing the torch to. Because the calibrator community is a really small one. You can count on your fingers the number of true professional calibrators operating in the United States. There's a reason for that. It isn't because they're antisocial or gatekeepers. Trust me, calibrators love to talk shop with anyone who can understand. But there are so few people who can grab the baton and start running with it. But here's the thing, we need younger people like Luca here to get into this profession, or I fear the art behind showing off the artist's art could be lost forever. Anyway, I'm gonna help in any way I can. Please keep emailing me. Lucas from Brazil writes, "Hey Caleb, so I have a Samsung QN90B, and after the announcement that Netflix would get support for HDR10+, I was stoked. But apparently, Samsung TVs are only getting support for HDR10+ on the 2024 and 2025 models. I understand the business decision behind it. Greedy? Yes, but understandable. My problem is with the technology that Samsung gets behind and then proceeds to stick it to their users. My TV was expensive, top of the line. It has support for AV1 and HDR10+. Limiting it sounds greedy. Do you have any news that you can share for when all Samsung TVs will support HDR10+ on Netflix? Keep up the good work, Lucas." Hey Lucas, so first let me say I understand your frustration. Your TV supports HDR10+, now Netflix supports HDR10+, and it's been rolled out. You want to enjoy HDR10+ on your Samsung TV, but you can't get it right now, and you're frustrated at missing out. I get all of that. However, your blame seems squarely aimed at Samsung, which is not fair, and it's for the wrong reasons. I'll explain that in a moment. First, let me propose a workaround for your problem that you could use right now. You can start getting HDR10+ Netflix on your Samsung TV right now if you go get yourself an Apple TV 4K, Amazon Fire TV Cube, or Roku Streaming Stick Plus. All of them will deliver Netflix titles available with HDR10+ to your Samsung TV. See, because the problem isn't with your TV hardware. The issue is with software, and it isn't all Samsung's fault. Most of it is actually on Netflix. Netflix is responsible for making the Netflix app, and they have to make one that runs on Google TVs and make one for Fire TVs and another for Roku TVs, another for the Apple TV box, one for LG's WebOS, and one for Samsung's Tizen. And so many more, like there's Vita and Titan OS. And like it or not, Netflix has to have some priorities. It isn't going to be able to instantly recode and release updates for its app on every single platform all at once. Now, when it comes to Samsung's responsibility in all of this, it's really about the changes that Samsung made to Tizen itself. It was in 2023, I think, maybe 2024, that Samsung changed Tizen so that coders had to move away from Tizen Studio IDE in favor of Visual Studio Code. Now, I don't know a ton about coding, but what I do know is that the newest version of Tizen works with Samsung's One UI, which aims to make the experience across all its smart devices feel the same. Now, since Samsung switched up the code process, and I'm totally guessing here, but I imagine Visual Studio Code was easier to work with, the Samsung TVs running the newer version of Tizen get the updated Netflix app first. Netflix will get around to older Samsung TVs, but it's a lower priority for them. Now, I'm sorry you're affected. Your TV is not old by any stretch, and it's a top-of-the-line TV for sure. But the blame isn't entirely on Samsung, and it doesn't have to do with greed so much as it has to do with smart business decisions. Creating that One UI for Samsung was definitely a smart idea. You're gonna get that update eventually, and if you're too excited to wait, pick up one of those streaming devices that I talked about. Danny writes, "My Panasonic TX-P50 GT60B died and it can't be repaired. I already have a 4K Blu-ray player and watch it in a low-lit room. I'd prefer a natural-looking picture to something super bright and saturated. I don't play video games or watch much sports. Would I need a top-tier OLED to match my plasma for picture quality and motion? I have read that bigger screens highlight motion judder on OLEDs. Thanks for what you do on the channel." Okay, so I'm definitely gonna help you out, Danny, and then I'm gonna use your question to talk about when judder isn't actually judder and what we can do about avoiding it or eliminating it if it can't be avoided. First, I need to address a term you used in your email. You said you would prefer a natural looking picture to something super bright and saturated. Let's first recognize that you are not alone in what you're looking for, but we need to change the natural looking picture description to familiar looking picture, because very little of what we watch on TV is natural. And lest you think I'm being pedantic, let me go further to say that, in fact, brightness and color saturation are way more vibrant in real life than they could ever be on a plasma TV. Plasma TVs, which I love by the way, have a somewhat limited dynamic range, although we can correctly argue it's still better contrast and dynamic range than many of today's LCD TVs. They also have limited color capabilities compared to today's TVs. Now that doesn't mean they aren't downright gorgeous. There's a reason folks like you prefer the way they look to the way some of today's TVs look. Now I think you need to go with an OLED TV, and I would suggest not getting a flagship OLED that distinguishes itself by having high peak brightness, because you don't need or want that peak brightness. I would say look at the LG C series, like a C4 or C5, the Samsung S90 series, maybe the S90D would be a good choice for you, or the Sony Bravia 8, not the Bravia 8 Mark II. Actually, the Sony Bravia 8 and the LG C series are the top two I would recommend to almost anyone transitioning from a plasma TV. The reason being is, well, the Sony in particular is not aggressively bright, and it has Sony's motion resolution technology, which will be critical for you to have to eliminate what you have referred to as a judder problem. Only it's not judder that's the problem. The issue you're talking about is like a flashing that comes from almost a stuttering. And it happens because OLED pixels have nearly instantaneous response time, or instant transient response. They go from pitch black to fully bright in an instant. The time between one and the other is hardly worth measuring because to the eye, it's instantaneous. And while that instant response time has a bunch of advantages, it also presents a problem in that we're watching content that is filmed at a rate that is well below the TV's refresh rate. That means a TV will hold on to a frame for a bit before switching to the next frame. And when it switches, like slow panning motions, they're gonna cause this flashing or stuttering look that is similar to what judder would look like, only it's way more annoying. The reason it happens is there's no softening of the brightness below. Even with the TV toned down to plasma SDR-like light levels, you'll still see it because an OLED pixel is so much faster than a plasma pixel. Plasma TV's slow pixel response time is actually part of why they look so smooth to us. Now you can tone down this stuttering, flashing thing with some motion smoothing in the TV, but you don't want the smoothing to be too aggressive or it'll go from being plasma smooth to fake looking soap opera smooth, and in a hot hurry. I think Sony and LG offer the most granular motion smoothing controls, which is why I think the Bravia 8, not Bravia 8 Mark II, or the LG C series is your best bet transitioning from a plasma. Guys, thanks so much for watching. I want to see every single one of you right here tomorrow morning for the live stream at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. It's going to be 90 minutes of us having fun, me answering questions, and you getting the info you need to get that TV you've been wanting to pull the trigger on. Subscribe if you want to see a video like this in your feed every week. I'll see you on the next one, and until then, take care of yourself. Why aren't some Samsung